It's time to talk all things cornerbacks as it relates to the Buffalo Bills and the 2022 NFL Draft today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino from the Draft Network, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Happy Thursday to you, and thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, or if you're joining us on the YouTube channel, your first watch every day. Well, we've done a running back primer. We've done a wide receiver primer. Now it's time to do a cornerback primer. And so today on the podcast, I'm going to give you my top options for the Buffalo Bills in the first round, second round, third round, and a handful of day three options that I think the Bills should consider. Again, like I've said, for all of the other primers, these rankings won't be the same ones that you see from me on the draftnetwork.com. These are specific to the Buffalo Bills. And as I like to say, scouting for a team is a lot different than scouting in a vacuum. And I actually enjoy scouting for a team a lot more because there are prototypes and specifics and schemes and character traits, all those things that make it a lot more specific, that allows you to laser in on the guys that actually fit. And so that's what we're going to do here today on the podcast, looking at these cornerbacks through the lens of the Buffalo Bills. And then, of course, my evaluations of these players. We'll give you a little mini scouting report. I'll give you a comp, talk about their size, their athleticism, and we'll get real familiar with these cornerbacks that the Bills need to find, right? The Bills probably need to draft a couple of corners in this draft, if we're being completely honest. So let's assess the need real quick. The security of Levi Wallace is gone. Signed a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Steelers, which, as I've said, is an indication to me that they were ready to move on from Levi Wallace. Despite all of the really good things that Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott have said about Levi Wallace, if they wanted him back, 2 years, $8 million wasn't going to get in the way of that. It feels like they're ready to move on. But at the end of the day, you lose that security blanket. You knew what the floor was at CB2 opposite of Trey White. And right now, you don't have that. Meanwhile, Trey White is still working back from a torn ACL. It's a 9 to 12-month recovery, and he had surgery in December. So the start of the season is very much in jeopardy there. And right now, your week one starters on the outside at corner are Dane Jackson and Cam Lewis. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say that that's an appealing combination. So the Bills need a starter, and it would be good for them to find an economic starter. This football team's getting more and more expensive as Brandon Beane continues to hit on draft picks and gives them second contracts, as he continues to hit on free agents and pay them, veteran starter money. This contract this entire roster is becoming more expensive. And so it'd be nice for the Bills to find an answer at a premium position like cornerback with a player on a rookie deal to help balance out the overall spending. Let's dig into these first round options. There are 4 players that I think the Bills should consider drafting in the first round. And look, a couple of these guys, maybe all of them won't get to pick 25, but because there is the opportunity for the Bills to potentially trade up, we'll talk about all of them, even if predictively I don't think they get to 25. My top cornerback for the Buffalo Bills is Sauce Gardner out of Cincinnati. 6'2" 3/4", 190 pounds, 33.5-inch arms, 9 5/8 inch hands. He's an above average athlete. I wouldn't call him an elite athlete. This isn't a rare athlete, but he's an above average, very good athlete. My favorite things about Sauce Gardner, the length. 33.5-inch arms, and it shows up on tape. He's very good at using that length to invade the catch point, to create jams at the line of scrimmage, to tackle. He uses it well. He's got really good ball skills. He's got really good coverage instincts. I like his feel for mirroring and matching. I like his feel for spacing zones. I like his feel for squeezing routes. I like his anticipation. It's all very good. And he's a player that I like exactly how the Bills want to use their cornerbacks. A lot of zone coverage and occasionally in press coverage. I also love his backstory. This was a guy that was like a 2-star recruit in the Midwest, and all the Big Ten teams overlooked him. He walks on, or he goes to Cincinnati, and as a true freshman, he winds up starting for Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's been a really good defense over the last several seasons and just got better and better every single year. I love his story. I love that he's earned his way. The thing that I don't like about Sauce Gardner is that he's grabby in coverage. He's a guy that he's going to get called for some flags in the NFL. And I think it comes back to athletic confidence. He doesn't trust his ability to transition and recover, and he's athletic enough and he's long enough, but he reverts to grabbing a lot. And so that's kind of something he has to work through. And look, there are some receivers that gave him fits in college, guys that are super twitchy, that can run routes on the horizontal plane and really get in and out of breaks cleanly. He'll give up a little bit of cushion, right? He's not super sticky in off-man coverage when he has to transition and drive on a horizontal break. My comp for Sauce Gardner is Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. Next player I want to get to is Andrew Booth from Clemson. This is one of my favorite football players in this class. I really love Andrew Booth. 6 foot and a quarter, 194 pounds, 31.5-inch arms. And again, for arm length, we're looking for 31 inches or higher. 9 3/8 inch hands. Athleticism, he's an elite athlete. He won't test before the combine because he's got a couple of injuries that he's working through. I think a quad and a core muscle injury. He didn't miss any time at Clemson due to injury, but he's got a couple of things he's working through right now, so we won't get athletic testing on him. Watch the tape. He's a special athlete, in my opinion. Very, very top tier. My favorite things about Andrew Booth, the feet, the hips, his instincts in man coverage. He's physical. He's competitive. He's got insane ball skills. I mean, some of the interceptions this guy's come away with will leave your jaw on the floor. The way he plays off contact. He's so competitive. You can just tell watching him that he doesn't want to give up an inch on the field. It's fun to watch. He's a really good football player. My concern with Andrew Booth is just zone coverage instincts. He's a guy that I think can be a little bit tighter squeezing routes and layering coverage, just kind of how he spaces the field. I think there could be a little bit more anticipation and a little bit tighter when squeezing routes and kind of getting to his landmarks and exchanging different route combinations. I think he can be a little bit tighter. My comparison for Andrew Booth Jr. is Jair Alexander. Next up, my CB3, Derek Stingley from LSU. 6 foot and a quarter, 190 pounds, 30 5/8 inch arm. So he's a little bit below that 31 inch that we want. 9 5/8 inch hands. He's an excellent athlete. What do I love about Derek Stingley? Derek Stingley at his best is unmatched in this class. What he did in 2019 was doggone special. As a true freshman, against top competition in the SEC West, what he did in the playoffs, the national championship, he was unbelievable. That tape in 2019 is better than anything we've seen from any of these other corners. It's unmatched. Like the size, like the physicality, I like the ball skills, and I like his versatility. I think he can play press, man, zone, off, whatever you want to do with him, soft press, he can do it. So there's no limitations. The concern with Derek Stingley is just that the last 2 years have not been his best showcase. Part of that's because of a new coaching transition that's happened at LSU. Part of that is the talent around him depleted, the safeties, the corners. It's all different, right? That back seven's very different from what he had in 2019 very quickly. And I thought his 2020 tape was okay. And then I thought his 2021 tape was very much just kind of get through the season, get to the draft. So there's some concerns there. My comparison for Derek Stingley is Stephon Gilmore. Next up is Trent McDuffie. This is the last guy that I think is a first-round target for the Bills. There's a couple guys that I wouldn't hate if the Bills picked at 25 that I didn't list. But in terms of a legitimate first-round valuation, this is the last one. And it's Trent McDuffie out of Washington. 5'10 and 3/4, 193 pounds, 29 and 3/4-inch arms. That's very, very below average. Again, we want 31 inches, and he's sub 30. That's not great. And he's got small hands, 8 3/4. He's a good athlete. I wouldn't call him an elite athlete, but he's very smooth, quick feet, fluid hips. My favorite things about Trent McDuffie are the coverage instincts. First of all, I mean, this guy, you could tell he's a student of the game, and his ability to mirror and match, anticipate routes, he is sticky and tight in coverage. And I think he can play any concept you're looking for. You want man, you want off man, tight press, soft press, zone. He can do it. I also love how physical he is. This is a guy that loves to tackle, loves to play off contact, loves to drive on the football. He's going to make your run defense better. The concern with Trent McDuffie is the length. He's got really short arms, and you start to wonder if the NFL is going to view him as a slot only. And they do that. That's a pretty common thing that the NFL will do. And if you're a slot only, your valuation goes down. My comp for Trent McDuffie is Byron Murphy. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your sports betting needs and info. Find all of the latest sports developments, including this week's Masters Championship odds, podcasts, and reviews for all the different leagues this season. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action, because BetOnline is where the game starts. Let's move on to the second round targets that I have for the Buffalo Bills. And I will be honest with you that a couple of these I don't think would be a bad pick at 25. So ideally, either pick 57 or a move up in the second round. But these top two I wouldn't hate at 25. First up is Tariq Woolley out of UTSA. 6'4 1/4, 205 pounds, 33 5/8 in the arm length, 9 1/8 in the hands. He's got crazy good size, and he's an elite athlete. Super explosive, sub 4.3 speed, can jump out of the gym. He's got all the size and athleticism you could ever want in a cornerback. What do I love about Tariq Woolley? It's the traits. It's the physical traits: size, athleticism, competitive spirit. The way he's wired. Had a chance to meet him at the combine, and then we had him on Draft Dudes, and he was a phenomenal interview. You can just tell he's hungry. He's wired the right way. He's got a competitive spirit, the right DNA, the type of makeup the Bills are looking for in a football player. You know, they love those guys that have switch positions, that have room for upward mobility, and they have physical traits. I think Tariq Woolley is very much a Bills target. The concern with Tariq Woolley is that he's raw. You can tell he's only been playing for corner for 2 years, right? The instincts just aren't there right now. And that's something that should not surprise anyone. I mean, he's only played the position for 2 years. But he's got to develop. He's got to get more time on task and develop those instincts. That way things become more second nature to him, and he can be a more effective and consistent player. My comp for him is not one that's going to leave you excited, but he reminds me a lot of Isaiah Johnson coming out of college, where you knew that he had all the physical skill in the world, new to playing the position, and it was just a matter of how he developed. And in the case of Isaiah Johnson, he never really took a step. We'll see if that winds up being true with Tariq Woolley, but the size and athleticism comparison and the parallels, you know, they really line up to me. Next player I want to get to is Kyler Gordon out of Washington. 5'11 and a half, 194 pounds, 31-inch arms, 9 1/4-inch hands. His athleticism is weird because on tape, he's a great athlete. I mean, you watch him and you think that this guy is going to break records at the combine. He's very springy and explosive on tape. At the combine, he ran a 4.52 40-yard dash with a 1.59 10-yard split, which are not good times. They're slightly below average. His agility scores at his pro day were great. And so I think the most important thing is your play speed and how you look on tape. And athletically, Kyler Gordon is extremely fluid and athletic on tape. My favorite things about Kyler Gordon are his movement skills. I love his competitive spirit. He's a feisty player. You can see that when he plays. It's something that you can feel. And I love his ball skills. I think this is a guy that has a chance to make a lot of impact, game-changing plays on the football in the air. The concern with Kyler Gordon is instincts, route recognition, anticipation. He is not a quick processor. He guesses a lot. His zone coverage, you could tell he just struggles to adjust on the fly. He's very focused on getting to his landmarks, and he's not really feeling route combinations and processing. He's just getting to a spot. So I think he's got a lot of work to do in terms of processing, and that has to come, or else he's going to be in trouble. I also do love this about Kyler Gordon. I should have said this. He's got a background in competitive dance and kung fu. I just think that's super cool, and that can't do anything but help you on the football field in my mind. My comp for Kyler Gordon is Antrell Roll. Next up is Kaiir Elam out of Florida. 6'1.5", 191 pounds, 30 7/8 inch arms, 8 7/8 inch hands. In terms of his athleticism, he's a good athlete, but he's more of a straight line guy. The transitions, the agility stuff, it's not really impressive, at least on tape. My favorite things about Kaiir Elam, zone coverage and eye discipline. I think he has a very good feel for zone drops, adjusting on the fly, anticipating route combinations, and squeezing routes. He's good at that. And I like his eye discipline as well. I like his physicality in coverage, and I think he can help you in zone and press. My concerns with Kaiir Elam is run support and tackling. This guy doesn't love to get involved defending the D-gap, and he's not a very enthusiastic tackler. I would also say that his transitional quickness is a question. I know that he ran a good 40-yard dash, but watch him flip his hips to turn and run. It's elongated and segmented. And when he has to drive, right, if he's going up against a twitchy receiver that's going to try to cross his face and work the horizontal plane, those transitions are not very clean. My comparison for Kaiir Elam is Carlton Davis. Next up is Roger McCrary out of Auburn. I don't think the Bills are going to draft Roger McCrary. I like Roger McCrary. His tape is very good. I've met him, spent time with him, had him on Draft Dudes. I like the way he's wired. All that stuff is really, really good. I just don't know that he's going to meet the Bills' thresholds. And so I'll talk about him, but predictively, I just don't think he's going to be on the Bills' radar. Comes in at 5'11 and 3/8, 190 pounds, 28 7/8 inch arms. That's extremely short arms, 9-inch hands. In terms of athleticism, he's quicker than fast. But he's a solid athlete. What do I love about McCrary? Love the man coverage ability. Love the ball skills. He got his hands on a lot of footballs, and that's because he's tight in coverage, and he's super competitive, and he plays the ball well. Love the way he tackles and how he's physical. It's very easy to love the way this guy plays the game. My concerns with Roger McCrary, length in zone coverage. This guy does not have great length, 28 7/8 inch arms. That's way below the 31-inch threshold that we're looking for. And he's a guy that's not played a lot of zone coverage. So two key traits for the Bills, length and zone coverage ability. He doesn't check those boxes, and that's why I have my concerns about him being a target. My comparison for him is Elijah Molden. Let's move on to some third-round options, and I'll be honest with you, the top two guys here, would not mind the Bills picking them at number 57. I love these players. We'll start with Alontae Taylor from Tennessee. 6 1/8, 199 pounds, 32 1/4 inch arms, 9 1/8 inch hands. He checks the boxes. He's an excellent athlete. What I like about Alontae Taylor is, first of all, he moved from wide receiver to corner back in like 2018. And you could just tell he's got tremendous football character, the way that coaching staff talks about him, the way that he survived different coaching staffs, the way that he meets every matchup that he faces. You could tell he's competitive. He's a leader. He's an academic standout. You can just tell the Bills are going to like this guy. I also love how physical he is. He's got coverage versatility. I think he can play press, off man, zone. I really like the way that this guy plays in coverage in terms of the versatility that he offers. Love the ball skills, and this guy tackles. This guy will really tackle. So there's a lot to like about Alontae Taylor. And then I think the concern with Alontae is the transitions. He's a guy that can be a little bit segmented when flipping his hips to turn and run, a little bit tight when he has to drive on routes. And so I do like him best in his zone coverage where you're not asking him to stay in phase and mirror and match as much. But I think he can do it. My comparison for him is Shaquille Griffin. Next player, Cam Taylor Britt out of Nebraska. 5'10 and 5'8", 196 pounds, 31.5-inch arms, 10-inch hands. He's an excellent athlete. My favorite things about Cam Taylor Britt is he's a high-character guy. I've met him a couple of times, did some content with him. He's a good dude. His family's awesome. He's wired the right way, was a high school quarterback, transitioned to corner in college, and has been awesome for Nebraska. 3-year team captain. That says a lot about him. He's physical. He's got great ball skills. He's a smart football player. He's easy to like in terms of the way he plays. And then my concern with him, and I've said this for a few guys now, is that he's a little bit tight in his transitions. So, again, you're not going to ask this guy to play off-man coverage and stay in phase and mirror and match against Tariq Hill. That's not going to be his game. He's a guy that is better in zone and press coverage. My comparison for him, James Bradbury. Next player, the last third-round target that I have down is Josh Williams out of Fayetteville State. 6'2 and 7/8, 195 pounds, 32 and 7/8-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands. You got to love all of those measurables. Those are great. He's a very good athlete, not an elite athlete, but a good above-average athlete. What do I love about him? Press coverage. He's physical. His tape is dominant. And I know that it's at the Division II level, but my goodness, this guy was dominant like you want from a player in the D2 level that's an NFL prospect. Watch him get up on the line of scrimmage. Guys cannot get off the line against him. He literally just swallows them up, and they go nowhere. And then I thought he went to the Senior Bowl and played well, right? It's a big jump for him, and I thought he met the moment very, very well. The concern with Josh Williams is just the adjustment that is coming, right? I know that he looked good at the Senior Bowl, but at the D2 level, he could just over-physical guys, and he's a great athlete. So he would bait some throws and break on the ball. He's a bully and run support. But at the next level, there's going to be a bigger level of commitment to technique and eye discipline, right? He's going to have to adjust a little bit the way he plays. My comparison for him is Bryce Hall. So those would be great third-round targets. So real quick, let me recap here. First-round targets in order: Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati, Andrew Booth from Clemson, Derek Stingley from LSU, Trent McDuffie from Washington. My second-round targets, and again, I wouldn't mind Tariq Woolley in the first round. Kyler Gordon. Ideally with Tariq Woolley is you make your pick at 25, and then you trade up in the second round to go get him if you can. Or you trade back from 25 and draft Tariq Woolley in the early second. Kyler Gordon from Washington, Kyer Elam from Florida, Roger McCrary from Auburn. Again, I don't think the Bills will draft McCrary. Third round, Alontae Taylor, Tennessee, Cam Taylor Britt, Nebraska. I wouldn't mind either of them at 57, to be honest with you. And then Josh Williams out of Fayetteville State, who I think is more of a third-round guy. Just a few day 3 players that I like, and some of these are early day 3, some of them are mid day 3. And these are players that I wouldn't draft and say, hey, that's my CB2. But I think in a year or two, they could be. And so if you wanted to double down at corner, I would make sure I get one of these guys to go with one of the players I already mentioned. But my concern would be if the Bills don't draft a corner except for one of these players on day 3, that's not what I'm asking for. I want an early investment in the cornerback position. So let me give you a couple of day 3 guys here. Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati. I think he is a slam dunk Bills fit, zone coverage, physical and run support, an accomplished player in college, good size and athleticism. Martin Emerson from Mississippi State, early day 3 guy, long, ball skills are okay. he's got some really clunky footwork in transition. So he's a little bit limited athletically, but we've never seen the Bills afraid of that before in the past. So he's definitely in play. Zion McCollum, Sam Houston State. He's got an insane size and athleticism. Developmental player that I think has a lot of upside. Jalen Armour Davis from Alabama. He's a toolsy guy, but he's only played like 600 snaps. So there's a projection there. But if you want to bet on traits, he'd be a player to consider. Monteric Brown from Arkansas. I think he's very similar to what I said about Kobe Bryant with better ball skills. I mean, this guy really has the ability to take away the football. He's a little bit loose in coverage, but kind of fits if you want to play zone. And Caleb Evans from Missouri, big press corner, long, ball skills are pretty good. There's some give and take there. He makes some plays, but he struggles down the field a little bit. He's not that type of athlete that can really run with everybody. And then Damari Mathis from Pittsburgh. We know the Bills like to draft DBs from Pittsburgh, and Damar Hamlin and Dane Jackson. So we got to mention Damari Mathis as that next guy that they could target in the middle of day 3. So there are options for the Bills, and I'd love for them to come away with one of those players that I mentioned in the first, second, or third round as targets. Or, get yourself a player like Alontae Taylor and a Kobe Bryant, something like that. But the Bills need to get some meaningful young talent here at the cornerback position and ease everyone's mind about the depth that they have or don't have currently, because they've played with it for too long, in my opinion. And last year, Trey White goes down, and they weathered the storm for a long time. But in those games where they had top-tier passing offenses, the Chiefs in the playoffs, the Buccaneers in the regular season, you could feel the loss of Trey White. I'm not sure the Bills lose either of those games if Trey White's on the field. So I hope the Bills will prioritize the depth here and make sure that they have a really deep and talented crop of cornerbacks to make sure they can match up. And obviously the passing talent in the AFC is unbelievable. The Dolphins have made significant investments at the wide receiver position. So this is going to be an important thing for the Bills to invest in and get right. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. We'll probably do some mock drafts for you tomorrow. Next week, we'll get to an interior offensive line primer and, of course, a lot of other great stuff. So don't miss anything. Make sure you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to catching up with you again tomorrow.